Greetings, loyal subscribers and honoured guests. Welcome back to another episode of Covertape Chaos Zzapped, where this time I'm taking a look at the mega tape that came alongside issue 75 of the magazine. Rodland is the cover star this time, and it's a very good port of a highly enjoyable Jaleco arcade game that I recommend to anyone who enjoys games in a similar vein to Bubble Bobble, Snow Brothers or Tumble Pop. It's even better when enjoyed with a friend. The contents of this tape promise to be quite action-packed, which makes a change from some of the overly complex or slow games that we have been getting quite regularly up to this point. So let's not mess around any further, let's get started with the first game. We're kicking things off, pun intended, with Supercup Football, once again from the Racket Budget label. This may be a bit controversial for some to hear, but I'm not even remotely a fan of football, so I don't really play many football games by choice. In fact, the only one I've ever spent any significant amount of time playing and enjoying was Sensible Soccer on my 486 PC. So I don't really have much in the way of expertise here, but Supercup Football seems to be a fairly competent game given the asking price. It's a bit simple perhaps, and lacking any kind of options for leagues, tournaments and the like, which means it probably won't have much lasting appeal for solo players. Get a mate involved for a multiplayer match and you can get a few hours of enjoyment out of it though. The game controls pretty decently, except perhaps that the banana shot is a bit too easy to do, and will see you bending the ball all over the place when you didn't really intend to. Visually and audibly the game is just alright, I would say, nothing really remarkable in either area. There are probably better football options on the Commodore 64, Microprose Soccer perhaps, but this one should keep footy fans entertained for a short while at least. The Zzapped reviewers seemed to agree with me as they awarded the game an average score of 67% and concluded with an adequate overhead view footy game which isn't too bad for the price. Up next is Revenge of the Mutant Camels from Jeff Minter, who also appears pretty regularly on these tapes. Unlike a lot of his games though, Revenge of the Mutant Camels is actually pretty easy to understand from the get-go, and doesn't feature any overly obtuse rules or control schemes, which is a refreshing change. Although this is a sequel to Attack of the Mutant Camels, the gameplay is completely different, and this is no longer a clone of the old Atari 2600 Empire Strikes Back game, but something entirely unique. This time you control a camel and go up against waves of increasingly bizarre enemies. The idea is simply to survive each wave by travelling a certain distance, which can be tracked in the top right corner of the screen. You have quite a long energy bar that does get topped up a bit on completion of each wave, and you begin with 4 spare camels, so the game is not too tough from the outset. After a while though, it does start to get more difficult as the enemies get increasingly tricky attack patterns. The things that you will go up against include clouds that rain cats and dogs, peace signs and roll-up cigarettes, to name just a few. I am impressed with the sheer variety of different sprites that Jeff Minter has created for this game, and you can tell exactly what everything is supposed to be. It's all drawn in his signature psychedelic style, and the sound effects are likewise comprised of the sort of zaps and bloops that we have come to expect from a Llamasoft creation. The accessibility makes this one of my favourite Minter games that I have played so far. I couldn't seem to find a Zzapped review for this one, which was a bit surprising, but it is what it is. Over on side 2 we begin with an incomplete demo of a game in development called Dream Raider by a team called Technodream. The plot sounds like that of the movie Inception, with you having to go into the dreams of a mad scientist in order to destroy the plans for a dangerous weapon before he has a chance to make it in real life and kill thousands with it. The game itself doesn't really match up with that concept though, with the reason being that the real world logic doesn't apply in the dream, and you will control and go up against random and bizarre creatures that make little sense. In the demo forest level you control a little cartoony green thing that looks like Pac-Man and Q*bert had an illicit affair, and this was the result maybe. The platforming is nice and easy to control, but at first I wasn't too sure which direction I was supposed to be going in, until I discovered that you could drop through platforms by pushing down on the joystick, opening up a whole subterranean area. It does say in the magazine that this demo can't be completed and doesn't feature any sound whatsoever. It's really just a proof of concept. This all seems fairly promising, but unfortunately once again the full game was never finished and released. What a shame. Finally, we have a game called Thrustable, a flick-screen shooting and exploration game where you control a little ball that strongly resembles the training droid that zaps Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. You also have a little drone following you about that can be controlled independently by a second player, which is a neat touch. When I first loaded up and played this on the C64 Maxi, there was horrible slowdown and sprite flicker as you can see in this footage. So I loaded up the game again in Vice on my PC and discovered that this doesn't occur there. I am not certain what causes this to happen in certain games on the Maxi, but it has happened before. Anyway, when the game is playing as it is supposed to, your job is to find and destroy 40 different reactors in order to make your way to the end of the game. There are barriers everywhere that mean you will need to take down particular reactors in order to advance onwards. To assist you, you can spend credits that are dropped by destroying waves of enemies on various power-ups, such as temporary shields, better lasers and bombs. There are also blue teleporter devices that will send you off to another area, so watch out for those if you've run out of places to explore in the area you are currently in. The graphics are decent enough, and they remind me of other games like Cybernoid a little bit. The sound can be a bit grating with the constant pew 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 of your lasers. I think I would prefer some nice music instead. I thought that this was a decent enough game, but it didn't really blow me away. Another one where there wasn't a Zzapped review, I think because the first time it appeared was on this tape. That brings us to the end of another episode then, and for me this time the game that I would consider spending more time with was Revenge of the Mutant Camels. I really enjoyed playing it, and I would like to try it again with the random stage mode where you don't know which order the enemy waves are going to be thrown at you. Dream Raider was cool but unfinished. I am not too fussed about the football game either way, and Thrustable wasn't really my cup of tea. Nice to see more action-packed games for an entire tape though. Join me again in 2 weeks' time for the next one, and in the meantime, take care.